Hello and welcome to the weekly business roundup with me, your host, Wadulo Mark Arnold. This is the Kampala Serena Hotel, where we're coming to you from. We're glad that you have been part of the program throughout the year, and we are not done with 2020 yet, so please take care of yourselves. However, the big stories this week: adventure and cultural tourism in the spotlight, Bwindi Impenetrable and Kidepo National Park connected to satellite internet, small-scale and artisanal miners decry the lack of capital, and across the borders, it's good news for Nigeria as its economy shows signs of quick recovery. Without further ado, it's time for business. Private sector players in the tourism industry believe that cultural and adventure tourism can seal the gap of uninclusiveness in Uganda's tourism industry. Now, according to analysts, increased numbers of tourists has failed to positively impact on the locals, thus impeding on the trickle-down effect of the tourism dollars to the average Ugandan. Dennis Sigor reports.
In a country like Uganda, whose tourist numbers continues to exponentially grow, passionate and qualified human resource in the entire value chain is necessary. A tour guide plays an integral part in a tourism experience.
Indeed, ours is a service, but it does not mean that you are not making money. But what is important, the people have come for the service, and that's what you should offer. The money will come much later. It's there. But if you look at the money, you are not going to be able to give the service, I can tell you this.
However, there are concerns about tour guides' knowledge of their portfolio and skills, especially in the area of adventure and cultural tourism.
We are not telling our stories, and the stories are written everywhere. Every village, every town, there's a story about this and that and this, and the guides have not been stopping to tell these stories. And the communities, nobody is talking to the communities to develop their stories such that tour operators can include their sites into their itineraries.
I think it's important that they know their backyard, and also they know, whenever they drop somebody off at an UA gate, what's behind it. And I would really like to encourage, tour guides that have such activities in their portfolio to go out there themselves and discover. Because then you really feel what the place is about.
A private sector initiative led by Matoke Tours, a travel agency in Uganda, is focused on diversifying the tourism products by training high-potential tour guides.
We have started this process a long time ago. This is around 1.5 years ago. We came together with 5-6 other companies under this initiative, Adventure Tourism Uganda, because we saw the potential that Uganda still has for adventure tourism. That's cultural tours, and that's also active adventure. So it has been talked about for a long time that we would want to diversify products for Uganda, which is mainly known as a primate trekking destination, but it has so much to offer. Uganda is such a culturally diverse country. It has so much natural beauty in different destinations, landscapes which go from mountains to savanna to crater lakes and forests. So the potential is just untapped.
By introducing a specialist training program for adventure travel guides, the partners are convinced of a trickle-down effect of the tourism dollars to the average Mwananchi.
Any training we put up, we get graduates who want to come and join. And when you come as a graduate and you agree to be trained practically, then you get into the high notch. So it's a job for everyone.
According to John Sempebwa, Uganda's tourism potential is unlimited, but to reap big, there is need for strategic and deliberate efforts.
Uganda is beyond gorillas and wildlife and safaris. Cultural tourism has to be inextricably linked and merged with these safaris. Why? Why is this important? Tourism at the moment is getting a very limited share of the national budget, for the sole reason that our kind of tourism here does not trickle down. The benefits are not trickling down to the masses.
The Adventure Guide training program also focuses on female tour guides. Social and economic barriers have often made it impossible for women to consider a career in tour guiding in Uganda.
Sometimes we're underestimated. They feel we're incapable of doing this because it's always been a man's job previously. So those challenges sometimes, but we have proven them wrong because we're doing it. I am doing it. Other women are doing it.
So me being here is one, because of the passion, and two, because I feel that the Ugandan tourism industry needs to pull up their socks as far as promoting and pushing forward the adventure tourism bit of it.
Although most of these tour guides have been trained before and have been active in the industry for a while, they appreciate the refresher course, and coming at a time of sector slowdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they believe it's ideal and timely.
So many things that we took for granted because we thought they were little, but it's because we have grown up seeing these things and we think that they don't matter. But now at least we know.
The tourists come here to enjoy the money, but if you don't offer much, their problem is not spending the money, but how do you convince them to spend the money to enjoy the trip? This training, this kind of the trainings, like is good and best for this country, I can say, because one, guides are the heart or the backbone of tourism.
I believe we should market ourselves wider into the cycling, mountaineering. The tourism industry is quite broad, and I believe we have only done so little in marketing our activities, and yet there are quite many. I would encourage the tour operators to package a variety for everybody, the young, the old, different races of people, culture, tourism. It's quite broad.
The excursion at Mabira, a tropical rainforest, on the last day of the 3-day training offered the tour guides a glimpse at what an adventure hike entails. Dennis Sigoa and Robin Yoso for UBC News.
Tourism and hospitality industry players across the country are optimistic of a domestic tourism boom during this festive season. Jinja City, one of the best destinations for adventure tourism, is gearing up for its visitors after a drastic decline of foreign tourists due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
The tourism and hospitality sector in Jinja City is acknowledging the changes that the COVID-19 pandemic has instituted within the industry. All Terrain Adventures, a company located in Bujagali, has in the last 2 years concentrated on domestic tourists.
For the last 2 years, we've really sunk our teeth into the domestic market. So I think now we're at a level where just about 82% domestic, which is amazing. So we can't rely on somebody like me flying into Uganda to come quad biking. It's ludicrous really to imagine that that's just always going to happen. Yeah.
When the pandemic came and government announced a countrywide lockdown, all the adventure activities came to a standstill.
It was very difficult. We closed for 2.5 months. That was tough times. We reopened on the day the President told us private cars were allowed back on the roads. It's been a very slow process even since then. But we're still okay. We're keeping our heads above water. I'm not going to tell you we're making lots of profit because we're not. We're not. We've discounted our prices, so that obviously affects the bottom line as well. But it's got people coming. I mean, people have been trapped in their houses for months, and to actually get out and enjoy, and the scenery here is just, it's second to none, yeah.
The Mansion Hotel in Jinja has also braved the tough times. Tough restrictions to contain the spread of the pandemic, so their bookings dropped drastically.
Our room occupancies went from a possible 100% to close to sometimes 5%, 10%. So the COVID-19 pandemic has really hit us most in the hospitality industry.
With the gradual opening of the economy, these players in the tourism and hospitality industry are steadily recovering. And with the festive season around the corner, business can only get better.
The bans of inter-country travels, that has really affected us as business. But we are appreciative to the local community, to the Ugandans as such, because they have traveled. Even as far as Mbarara, we have clients coming in also from Kampala, and that is what has been supporting the business. It hasn't been that good, but by and large, we are grateful that it has been improving and hoping that it will be better than this. With the upgrading of Jinja into a city, and with this we are grateful to the government. It's an appeal as either partners in the tourism industry, hospitality industry. Our appeal is that the authorities also boost it up in terms of marketing it even more, locally and also internationally. Initially, Jinja was known as an industrial city, but as it is now, tourist-wise, also tourism-wise, it's also having a competition on the same.
Given the international travel restrictions and fear of infection, domestic tourism offers a better chance for a rebound in the early recovery phase. Public and private stakeholders in Uganda's tourism industry have in the recent months focused their attention on ways of stimulating domestic tourism as a way to support the battling tourism industry. Charlotte Amuge for UBC News.
The Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, together with the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, launched satellite internet access through Wi-Fi in Bwindi, Impenetrable and Kidepo National Parks. The initiative gears at enabling both the tourists and the managers of the tourism parks to benefit from immense opportunities of using the internet.
2, 1.
Bwindi Impenetrable National Park and Kidepo National Park are now live on the internet thanks to a collaboration between the Ministry of ICT and the Ministry of Tourism along with Somba, a private sector partner.
Playing like a video clip as a visitor who has come here, that you have captured in the field over a cup of coffee or having a snack is indeed rewarding. And so, in our view, this is really a very, very critical complementary service.
Both the Ministry of ICT and the Ministry of Tourism agree that a reliable internet connection in the parks will make it easier for government to track key performing indicators of the tourism industry.
Tourists prefer visiting destinations that provide Wi-Fi internet connectivity due to the increase in smartphone usage and social media platforms to share travel experiences.
This fits exactly within the aspirations of the National Broadband Policy of Uganda 2018 that aims at connectivity for all, irrespective of any positioning within the country.
The park lodges will serve as the center points for the strongest Wi-Fi connection to enable the park's management to use it for administration, while the logged-in tourists enjoy social media, websites and emails.
It's not just Wi-Fi for the guests to use, but it's also Wi-Fi for the Ministry of Tourism and Uganda to advertise what we'd like these guests to view.
The tourists also have the chance of saying, okay, if I'm here, I can also connect through Bwindi. So that is also going to boost in terms of the revenue sector.
So what we've done here, we have put an antenna outside here, right at the entrance. There's an antenna there, which is picking the signal from the satellite, which is connected to the internet. And then now we're able to create a Wi-Fi hotspot around the lodge.
This highlight marks the beginning of a challenging task to connect all the other national parks onto the World Wide Web. Wadulo Makanold for UBC News, reporting from Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. CSOs are concerned that government has not provided proper accountability regarding the utilization and impact of the COVID-19 resources. In a press statement made at the Uganda Debt Network's office in Ntinda, they requested government to publicly account for the loans amounting to $888 million and grants amounting to $14.2 million, all acquired in 2020 in response to the COVID-19 shocks.
As a society, we are very concerned with those observations, and we are calling the government to provide adequate accountability to all citizens. Remember, citizens also provided physical cash, in kind and cash, but also the loans that are acquired are supposed to be paid by we the citizens. So we need accountability to the citizens by the government of Uganda, and they should continue updating on the progress of the implementation of the COVID-19 plans, and also that the people must participate in decision making. We're also calling the government of Uganda to institute investigations into the misuse of COVID-19 resources by Ministry of Health and other agencies, because there are other agencies, not only Ministry of Health.
The report of the Ministry of Finance, Budget Monitoring and Accountability Unit, which says that funds from the regional referral hospitals were characterized by varying unit costs of food that was served to COVID-19 patients, mischarges, lack of accountabilities, duplicated activity reports, doubtful barriers of COVID-19 cases, domestic areas for hospitals like Gulu and Arua, among others. And by 17th August of this year, Arua, for instance, Regional Referral Hospital, had accumulated arrears of about 278 million on food, refreshments, allowances and accommodation for health workers.
The IEG has powers to arrest, investigate and prosecute. Now, while the institution has been faced with challenges like limited human resources and financial resources, it has made tremendous effort in the prosecution of the corrupt and recovery of some of the embezzled funds. Our concern, however, as CSOs, is since July 2020, when the office of the IGG fell vacant following the expiry of the former IGG Justice Irene Muliagonja's tenure, there has been no effort made by the government or the duty bearers in this regard to appoint a substantive IGG. While the Constitution stipulates that the IG shall comprise of the IGG and 2 deputies, the absence of a substantive IGG affects the independence of the institution, which now has to depend on the Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecutions to sanction cases for investigations.
Mining sector players concluded the 2nd annual Artisanal Small-Scale Mining and Quarrying Conference and Exhibition. The annual exhibition brings together sector players across the country to collectively discuss challenges and devise strategies of enhancing the management and productivity of the sector. A survey conducted amongst leaders of artisanal and small-scale mining associations across Uganda indicates that the most pressing challenge miners face is inadequate access to affordable financing for the operations.
So this conference serves as testament to the achievement this sector has made, but also to demonstrate the potential that lies ahead. We've invited financial institutions. This year we have a Centenary Bank participating largely to learn the different supply chains that these artisanals and small-scale miners have, to understand how artisanals and small-scale miners operate, but most importantly also to see whether we can start a conversation with the banking institutions on how to come in and facilitate this untapped economic sector.
As the sector players wait on government to pass the Mining Bill of 2019 into an act, they assert that the current mining law is unfair to artisanal and small-scale miners and has consequently risked pushing them out of business.
When you get allocation license, you are not supposed to employ capital that is more than 10 million according to the current law. And the allocation license is about 40 acres of land. And when you look at some of the equipment that we use in mining, for example, a single ball mill costs over 18 million, and after installation it can go to around 20 million. So when the law says don't employ more than 10 million Uganda shillings in your allocation license, it's like all those holding location licenses now are illegal.
You find that the most endowed districts, communities are also the poorest. Karamoja is higher endowed, not so. Are you the richest in Uganda? Bwindi is higher endowed. It is the Karamoja of Bwindi.
I think the banks and the microfinances can do this, starting with case-by-case basis, depending on the mine sites, how organized you find them.
On the contrary, 87% of developmental minerals in Uganda, like clay, stone aggregate, dimension stones, sand and limestone, are produced by artisanal and small-scale miners who have largely been operating with no licenses.
Because number one, what you need to get finances is, one, you must be legal, a legal entity, registered, formalized. Number two, you must have a license. You cannot get money from any bank or from any institution to invest in a place where you don't have a license. You must have a license. And of course, in the new bill, they have put that all development minerals, including stone quarrying, making bricks, and then making pots, yeah, they are going to be licensed, but it's not yet a law. It took us since 2017, 4th August 2017, they evicted miners in Bwindi. From that date up to 31st July 2020, we got a license.
Even though the mineral sector remains largely unregulated and untapped, its contribution to Uganda's gross domestic product increased from 0.3% in the financial year 2012-2013 to 0.6% in the financial year 2017-2018. Reporting for UBC News, Wadulo Mark Arnold in Mbarara City. In our corporate news, Vivo Energy Uganda has launched its annual end-of-year customer reward campaign. Now, over 90,000 customers are expected to walk away with prizes worth over 400 million Ugandan shillings. Let's take a look.
The promotion, dubbed 10 Weeks of Cheer Reloaded, is open to all motorists that use Shell fuel, save unleaded or diesel.
All someone has to do if they're driving a car, all they have to do is buy fuel, unleaded or diesel, worth 50,000 for a car. If it's a bike or border, all you have to buy is 10,000 shillings. Share your details with our pump attendants. That's your phone number, your number plate, and the amount you've bought. Then once he puts that into the system, you will then get into a draw to win 200,000 worth of fuel at the jackpot level every week. And you also get an instant SMS to show what you have won. These prizes will range from airtime to fuel to hand sanitizer.
As part of its social corporate responsibility, the energy company has increased the number of winners from about 15,000 in 2019 to over 90,000 in 2020.
Many of us who are not rewarding as really many people as possible. So that's why we tripled the numbers from 15,000 winners to 90,000 winners. Another major challenge was whenever our customers would travel to a site, they would reach there and they get a report that the promotion isn't here. So we've decided this time to cover the entire network. We'll have this running at 157 stations as opposed to last year when we only had this at 115.
The campaign started on 11th of December this year and will climax on 19th of February 2021. Charlotte Amuge for UBC News.
On the international scene, Nigeria expects to exit recession by the first quarter of 2021. Africa's largest economy recession was sparked off by the coronavirus. Let's take a look.
Nigeria's second quarter contraction, which caused the economy to slip into recession, was widely expected. But at just minus 3.62%, the scale of the contraction was quite surprising. Many had projected a much steeper contraction. But the country's fiscal and monetary authorities say the lower than expected decline is largely a result of the huge funding interventions they made to cushion the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on households and businesses.
With sustained implementation of our intervention measures, we do expect that the Nigerian economy could emerge from the recession by the first quarter of 2021. We also expect that growth in 2021 will attain 2.0%. However, downside risks remain, as restoration of full economic activities, particularly in service-related sectors, remain uncertain until a COVID vaccine is produced and made available to millions of people across the world.
The Nigerian government rolled out its economic sustainability plan back in June this year to tackle the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. The plan provides for a $5 billion stimulus package targeted at job creation, households and businesses. The central bank has so far been an important driver of the initiative, providing unprecedented funding support to various sectors of the economy.
We have seen that this has been quite impactful, particularly the targeted credit facility, which is meant for households and SMEs, because what we saw during this period is that it has helped to boost consumption spending for our SMEs. And if you know or recall that consumption constitutes over almost 70% of output, you will know that this has been very, very impactful in moderating the impact of the COVID-19 on productivity and output and GDP in our country.
The government is still coming up with more initiative and literally putting more money in the hands of the people with the hope of turning things around for the economy. One other good thing for Nigeria is that oil prices are gradually picking up, and that could help shore up the country's reserve and keep its currency stable. And with COVID-19 vaccine now being approved for use, some bit of normalcy may begin to return to the global economy. That, of course, would further boost the local economy here and possibly get the country off the recession as quickly as officials are predicting.
These incidentally are people with means, okay, in most cases, okay? So what happens is, as you discover one way of fraud, they change it. And how are they doing that? They're having meetings to discuss what was discovered altogether. What happened? How did they find out? How did they grab you? So in the process, they come up with ways of beating that. So that's why I was saying we must be smarter in the fight against fraud. I mean, like right now I can share with you, I said I didn't have enough time to share as much more as I ought to have with everyone. Right now, because cars are becoming a bit tricky for some of them, they are going to import used old machinery in China, insuring it highly, and either to break down, machinery breakdown, or fire. And again, you see the value is so high. Our assessors don't have the capabilities to tell the values of those some machineries. Okay.
In our Sounds of Business, we are in Buyikwe district where we visited Osinde and Kajimu's fish farms. Enjoy.
Grew up on the lake here. I enjoyed eating a lot of fish here. Though sometimes I was in Kampala, Mkono, taking my studies, but I could take time and come down here, enjoy the lake. We had a lot of fish down here. Those are the 90s. There was a lot of fish. Sometimes when we could go come and escape from Mama, we would go with small nets and then catch. I was so much interested in seeing how it's done in fish farming. So I saw the other side of pond farming and then the other side of cage farming. I saw the technology, I saw what it takes, and when I came back I said, okay, I thought it was just so simple to just establish a pond and just put some fish and then you wait, you get the money. When I got that exposure I said, okay, it's a real business.
Now we are in the festive season and we might get compelled to travel to our loved ones up country. However, the Ministry of Health has advised against these travels to curb the increasing spread of COVID-19. So stay home, stay safe, and have yourselves a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. My name is Wadulo Mark Arnold and we're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Hotel. From the team and I must say good night and catch us on the next episode.